But it is my pleasure today to talk to you about what we've come up with in regards to oceanfront parking and resident parking at the oceanfront. So a little bit of background. Staff has presented on the parking fund to City Council and this topic on February 18th and July 1st. City Council, you all asked us to investigate the potential for free or discounted parking in the resort area for Virginia Beach residents. This presentation is going to give you what we believe is a good recommendation at this point, the best of our knowledge, something that we think is workable and something that we think offers real value to the residents of Virginia Beach. As the manager pointed out, and I feel compelled to remind everybody, the parking fund is an enterprise fund. That means that as an enterprise fund, it is required to sustain itself to the degree that is possible. That means that it is not generally supported by the general fund. Now, I'm putting some caveats in there because the general fund and sometimes the TIP do help with construction of parking facilities, but the day-to-day operations really should be supported as an enterprise fund. It is not also a revenue stream for the city's general fund. That means anything that we generate in the parking fund does not come back to offset taxes. And that revenue is specifically used for the operating, cleaning, and maintaining of the parking facilities and the elevators, keeping the paint fresh, making sure that the shrubbery that gets run over gets replaced. There's a lot of expenses that go into just running the parking system. So as we looked at what council asked us to do, we came up with a couple of objectives that we thought we heard. And one was to create a resident parking program for use at the oceanfront. And today, when I speak of the oceanfront, I'm specifically talking about that area that exists between Pacific and Atlantic. So what we oftentimes call the 100 and 200 blocks at the oceanfront. There's one exception. We're also going to throw the 25th Street garage in because it functions in much the same way as the rest of the oceanfront parking does. And that's on the other side of Pacific. It's on the west side of Pacific. But for the most part, we're talking about that area between Pacific and Atlantic. And so this would not count, say, the Atlantic Park development. It's not going to count the sports center, civic center, convention center that I just spoke about a couple weeks ago. We also were hoping to provide streamlined parking payment and validation process. I spoke to you before about some of the challenges of having a resident program and understanding exactly what a resident means and how we're going to validate that that person is still a resident, that they didn't move from our city to, say, Chesapeake or some other city and still have something on their driver's license that is not correct. We want to make sure that we modernize and incentivize whatever it is that we do, and that ultimately that it encourages turnover in high demand areas. And specifically, that's going to be, to a large degree, that's the on-street parking, which is real close to the front end. And I think we have some interesting ideas. So with that in mind, I just also want to point out that we have several programs that exist today, and this is not a comprehensive list of all of the programs that the parking program runs, but this does give you some idea of some of the things that we already do to incentivize or to try to foster specific behaviors at different areas. We have an existing residential discount, which is $3 after 5 o'clock. We have on-street parking, which is our regular rate is $2 per hour. But by code, that $2 per hour is limited on street to no more than 3 hours. So that's by code. We have monthly parking rates that are available for either residents that live adjacent to the parking, or some people use it on a more frequent basis. Now, today, that rate is $50 a month for non-reserved spaces and $100 a month for a reserved space. We also have a weekly parking program, which is $50 a week. And if you look at, what is that, bullet 4 and bullet 3, you'll say, well, why would you pay $50 a week if you could pay $50 a month? And there really is some differences in the program, some subtle nuances. And in garages, we pay $2 an hour. There's a max of $20, and then the rates renew daily at 5 o'clock. We also have a seasonal lot permit, which is pretty popular. That's $70 for the first permit, and then if you have a second house or a second permit in the house, it's a $10 for the second permit. And then we have a number of residential programs that are listed on the bottom. So our recommendation to council at this time would be to introduce a $50 annual resident parking voucher, and that would be renewed annually with proof of residency. That voucher would have credits usable at the locations and on-street spaces identified as the oceanfront service zones, and that's that area that I just told you about, between Pacific and Atlantic. It wouldn't be useful outside of those areas, so this wouldn't affect Sandbridge, Croatan, Atlantic Park. This would be specifically for the oceanfront service zones. The program is designed to be a digital voucher, meaning that you would have to have a digital account with us on your phone. It would help us to track usage by residents. That would be really critical for helping us to understand where residents want to use, and also be able to feed back with the residents and be able to push out some messages and help them to understand events that might be ongoing if we're having particular parking challenges during the summer months, and also help us to understand where they're going and what it is that they're seeing. We would offer an opportunity to reload that voucher after you use your $50. That would be for a first reload. We'd allow you to pay $25 and get another $50 worth of parking in the course of the same year. So for basically $25, you'd get $100 worth of parking. We think that represents a very good value for the residents. It demonstrates council's commitment to affordability, and it also helps us to create a measure of retention and program loyalty. These are the facilities that I've identified. So the lots would be the 2nd Street, 4th Street, and Rudy Loop lots. Garages would be 9th Street, 25th, and 31st Street. It also includes on-street metered spaces for that same area. So this is the area between Rudy Loop and 38th Street, both those spaces that are available on Atlantic and those spaces that are on the side streets, the 200 block, as we call it, between the same area, between Rudy and 38th. There are a couple of modifications that we are suggesting to the existing fee program, though. We think that this is going to have an impact to the parking fund, and we do need to make a couple of adjustments to help keep us right-sized, and we want to make sure that we're not doing an impact to the parking fund, but we're also trying to be fair and trying to be still responsive to what we're hearing as feedback from the community. We are recommending to eliminate the $3 after 5 p.m. resident discount, but if you have $50 in credits, we think that that is a way that helps to kind of offset that cost to the residents. It's also a particularly difficult discount to apply. It's difficult for us to, because it usually requires somebody to be there, or they have to call a number, or they have to text a number. It's just a little bit more of a challenge. We're also recommending eliminating the 3-hour on-street parking maximum. And again, that's by code, so if council decides to go this way, that's something that we would have to address through a code amendment. And then we also have a progressive pricing strategy that we're proposing, a new hourly structure. And this is actually designed to help us move vehicles from, for longer stays, to move them from the street parking towards the garages and lots. But it actually offers quite a bit of a discount for the first little bit. So we think that there's additional value that's here for the residents and for our visitors. So again, if I remind you, today it's $2 an hour, flat rate, every hour it's $2 an hour. Now that is unless there's a parking garage where we have some type of an event. We do have peak pricing. There are certain days of the year where we just charge a flat rate of $20. But I'm talking in our general overall rate, it's $2 an hour. What we're proposing is a progressive pricing strategy. So for the first hour, it would only be $1. If you just want to stop in, grab an ice cream with the kids, or you want to grab a slice of pizza or something like that, you can do this. And that's in the on-street surface lots or garages, $1 for the first hour. $2 for the second hour. That would line up with pretty much what we have today. So if you only stay for two hours, you can get in and get out for $1 less than it costs you today. Now, when you go to the third hour, there's a little bit of a difference between what we're doing on the on-street, surface lots, and garages as we move forward. On-street, it'd be $3 for the third hour. Hours 4 and 5 would be $6 an hour. Hours 6 and 7, $7 an hour. And 8 and over would be $8 an hour. So the incentive is really to move away from on-street parking. If you're going to stay for 5, 6, 7 hours, not parking on street would be your best choice. It would be far smarter to move to the garages, to a surface lot. In those cases, we're just proposing to change that for hours 3 and more to $3 an hour with a daily max of $24, which is a little bit higher than it is today. We don't think that this is going to represent a significant change to most of the users, but for those users that come and stay for long periods of time, which are the people that we're really trying to incentivize to move to the surface lots and garages, this should provide that incentive. There's some footnotes on the bottom, though, just so that you have them. On-street parking, there's no time limit. Again, that's our proposal. Parking is between the hours of 6 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. the next day. Rudy Loop is a little bit different. The enforcement there is from 10 a.m. to 2:30 a.m., and that has to do with the fishermen and surfers. That's a long-time commitment that the city has made to those groups. In the surface lots and garages, the hours are the same as the on-street, 6 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. We have a couple of other recommendations as far as the pricing strategy goes. We would recommend increasing the unreserved monthly parking rate, which is currently $60 a month, to $100 a month, and increasing the reserved monthly parking rate, which is currently $100 a month, to $150 a month. We did some limited evaluation of other communities such as Norfolk, Wilmington, and Richmond. We're right in line with where they are. Those numbers line up very close to what we're seeing in those other communities. We're also recommending to increase the seasonal lot permit. If you recall, it's currently $70 with the second one at $10. We're recommending changing that from $70 to $100 and eliminate the discount on the second permit. We think that that is a fair rate and is appropriate. By making these changes, we expect to see a turnover in the prime oceanfront spaces, specifically the on-street area. We're anticipating to have enough revenue growth to cover the expected loss as a result of the free voucher. And that growth then should be able to help us offset capital maintenance and operational needs. We're expecting to gain a lot of insight into how our residents are parking or using the system. And we're really hoping to increase resident satisfaction and also our businesses at the oceanfront. We know that this is something that they're very much interested in, and we hope that this recommendation will give them some measure of what they're looking for. In order to make all this happen, though, we are requesting one additional FTE, and this FTE would be in the parking fund. This is not a general fund position. This position, we believe, is necessary to help us with the enrollment, the being able to keep an eye on whether the annual verification of residency, being able to help people reload their cards, that type of thing. I say their cards, it's not a card, it's a digital account, but yeah. So next steps, should council like this proposal and ask us to move forward, what we would propose to do next would be to start making the technical adjustments. There's a couple of things we have to do on the back end to make this available, and also to be able to make it something that's really easy for our residents to be able to access, to be able to see what their balance is, and to be able to see what's happening with their account. So there's some work we have to do on the back end. We would have to bring an ordinance modification to City Council to modify sections 21.322 and 21.323, which are the sections in City Code that have the 3-hour limit on metered parking. And then we would propose to begin the program April 1st, 2026, which, if you recall, that's the same date that we're proposing to make the changes at the Sports Center Convention Center, and that lines up with when we start charging again in our lots. Registration, though, we would expect to begin in the first quarter of 2026. I can't give you an exact date yet because we're still trying to figure out the technical aspects. And with that, we will be happy to take any questions.
This is quite interesting proposal. Thank you for working so hard on it, and it's really it's out of the box thinking. I really think that. So I just want to make sure that this is an opt-in program, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So people have to opt in, but they're going to get a $50 worth of free parking if you are a City of Virginia Beach resident.
Yes, ma'am.
And then if you want more, you get it for half price.
For one reload, just one reload. We can't do that forever. I think that would offer a real challenge. But, yeah.
Okay, but that's still a pretty good deal. Can you explain how how it works? I mean, say someone like me that's maybe a little bit challenged digitally, how I would use it.
I'm going to let John take that question. John's way more technically savvy than I am. But one thing I wanted to point out, because you pointed out that this is an opt-in program, and I think that's a really valuable point. But even if they choose not to opt in, if we select this, if you look at the progressive pricing strategy, even if they don't opt in, for hours 1, 2, and 3, they're at neutral. If they only stay for 2 hours, it's $1 less than it is today. If they stay for an hour, it's $1 less than it is.
That's for everyone.
That's correct. And so I think, and I really do want to give credit to Tavris and John. They came up with the pricing strategy. I'm not blaming it on them. If you hate it, it's my fault. But if you like it, I do want to give them credit because they put a lot of work into it.
It's really fascinating. And before he explains how it works, I guess we always have to, this is an enterprise fund, so we have to look at the finances and make sure that we're going to be sound financially with this program. And I'm sure you must have done that.
We did to the extent we can. It's really hard to know how many people are going to want to sign up. I think that there's a percentage of the population that is going to say, I just don't want to do it. And we think that the progressive pricing strategy offers them something. There's a percentage of people that are like, yeah, let's do this. Let's sign up for this. And we think, but we can't judge what that is. There's always the possibility we come back to you and say that the resident parking program is so successful, we might need to adjust some of the rates. But we really believe that there's enough in here to at least get us through a year and be able to use those metrics that we learn along the way to figure out how people are using it.
Well, and a married couple would each get $50, right?
Yes, ma'am. That was a good talking point.
A couple get $100 worth of free parking.
Yes.
Now, so now if you explain how it works.
John, do you want to explain how the
app would work?
How the app might work? Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the baptism by fire.
Thank you. I've had experience with other councils, and I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone here. So, and just for the record, I'm John Crawford. I'm the new parking administrator for the City of Virginia Beach, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Our plan is to have on a mobile payment app, the app to be determined at this point. We're evaluating 2 or 3 different providers, but we know that they can all support this type of program. It's commonly referred to in a couple of different ways. If you look at other cities, it's either a voucher program where the people register and we provide a voucher that's assigned to their account, or it's what's called a wallet. A lot of the mobile parking applications have a way you could just load a certain amount of money onto your account and draw off of it, so you're not using your credit card every time you pay. We could piggyback on that type of a situation. So we're going to evaluate what we think is the easiest way to roll this out and easiest for people to use, but it will be through a mobile app situation. Can I speak to the money a little bit, or you want me to stay away from that? So LJ is exactly right. It's very hard, especially with the on-street, to try to judge how this is going to impact us financially because you've had an artificial 3-hour cap. I think in the long run, I'll just speak, I think that in the long run, we'll collect more money, but the people that are used to using it as a 3-hour option will actually be encouraged to come down a little bit more. As LJ said, you want to buy that piece of pizza, you want to get a coffee, you just want to meet somebody for a few minutes, the ice cream, all that is a benefit to the residents that want to use the on-street. Off-street in the 3 parking garages, I did some very, very rough calculations, and again, it's hard to say how this is going to impact people when they make a decision based on the cost of the garages. but I would think that it would be somewhere around 225,000 minimum added to the program from that. But it could be considerably more if people do tend to stay to the 8, 9, 10 hours because they are long-term facilities. So I think it'll be very positive. And my goal when I was presenting and talking to LJ and Tavris is we wanted to try to get something to help people want to go down to the beachfront to support the businesses as well. And I think that gives you this overall program.
Don't run away.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Worth, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. LJ and John and Tavris, welcome. Congratulations. Good luck. Mr. Hanson, could you describe to us the off-season free parking on Atlantic Avenue? How does this work with that, and does this change any of that?
What we're proposing today, we're not proposing a change to the off-season.
Okay.
There is, separate from this, a work group that is working on the capital improvements to Atlantic Avenue. There have been some discussions about what on-street parking looks like moving forward, and there have been discussions about whether that will be a year-round proposal or not a year-round proposal. Our recommendation is if it's year-round, we would propose to eliminate the off-season free parking on Atlantic Avenue, but that still remains to be seen. I just wanted to put it out that that's a conversation, but that's not part of this proposal today.
Just to clarify, off-season parking in a parking deck is free, or do you pay?
In a parking deck, there is no off-season. We pay year-round in the
12
parking
months,
decks.
right.
That's correct.
12
In the surface lots, though, we do not pay between November 1st and
Okay.
April 1st.
Anybody else? Amelia?
And thank you all so much. Welcome aboard. This whole idea will be good for all districts because we have people who are coming, whether it's District 4 or along these areas, that now we have an incentive to come down to the oceanfront. Because many of them think, well, it's off. And we're working for having not just on off season, but year round. So this will be good, and we'll ask our communications office to share this, to explain to people, how it works. And nowadays, a lot of people, technology savvy. Thank you for coming up with this, because it will benefit all districts.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hey, Jennifer?
Yeah, and I think it's really creative, the turnover issue. So I think that's a way to not limit access to parking per se, but to incentivize moving, to say you can stay here, but you'll have to pay more and more. And hopefully that will motivate people to only use it for an hour, 2 hours, then keep the spots open. So I think that's a really creative way to try to address that issue without denying access to spaces. So I just want to thank y'all for thinking this through.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? I tell you what, this is, I think, a very good presentation. And, as Rosemary often said, we want people from all over Virginia Beach coming to the oceanfront. And I think this would help. And the other thing is, we, over the last couple of years, have becoming more and more a year-round destination. Hopefully the shoulder season and the winter season will be no longer as seasons. With the bringing on the dome and the surf park and a number of the activities, and certainly the sports center has been very popular. And then I think there's going to be a new energy, right around the 20th Street area that we haven't had before. So, but once again, I think as we're looking forward, this is something that's needed at the time to accommodate, what we've been working on and what we have accomplished. Thank you very much, LJ.
Thank you.
And welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.